Hi, it's Ronnie, and welcome to Stretch the Sketch, hosted by Janet, who is Galaxy Girl Creations, here on YouTube. Plus, it is Baby Got Scraps, and it is where we use scraps to create our layout. And this is a sketch today, and you can either stretch it, make it smaller, or in my case, I'm going to make it taller and narrower, so it will be a different size. I am going to scrap in my smash book, and I'm going to scrap this picture right here. And I'm going to use that die, the cattail die. Plus, I think I'm going to use a piece of ephemera. I cannot remember. I started this layout a week ago and had to stop and do another layout and some other things. And of course, I can't remember exactly. Um, I will use the chipboard on the brads, but no brads. I'm going to use both of those punches there and a couple stickers. I will be using a couple of them. These are my scraps, and there's quite a few. Well, I already pulled out a few, but that's where they came from. And I had enough to do the triangle thing on the right bottom side, but it wouldn't gone all the way up because it's 13.5 inches tall. So I changed my mind on doing it. I had it ready to cut it, and I thought, well, I could fussy cut around the balls there and go ahead and use it that way. It'll still be kind of like a triangle, sort of, kind of, if you use your imagination a little bit. So I added them down there in the bottom. And there is 2 layers, I believe, in the sketch there. And so I have me 2 pieces there. Then it has 3 banners, and I decided to make them all different. And it looks kind of like theirs are layered, but since this is a smash book, I didn't want to make it any thicker than it was already going to be. I did want all my banners to be the same size, thereabouts. So I am using that one as a template to cut the other, so my banners will look similar too, because usually I don't care because they're not like uniform like this is. But one of my scraps is shorter, so I will have to fudge a little bit with it. And at first, I'm thinking I want my 2 pieces of paper to sit in the boundaries of the banners. So I'm spacing them apart, but I'm looking at that and thinking I really don't like that wide of a space. So I will, here, first goof, I have a few. But this one I forgot to ink it, so I inked it and put it back down. And I think 3 times I forget to ink till I get glue on them. This is the only one that is adhesive instead of liquid glue, so the others are a bit messier. But I still inked them, and I used tea-dye ink on them. And I will just line this up with the grid. It has a grid in the background, and y'all seen, I forgot to mention though, that had these flower-like things down in the bottom right-hand corner, purple, lavender, but that was not a color I was wanting to use, so it got covered up, which I was glad about the triangle because I thought, well, I can cover it up anyway. I'm showing my journaling there. There is quite a bit, and usually I journal on the back of a layout, but in a smash book you can't do that, so I have to come up with some other thing to journal with. And so I'm putting them in a glassine bag, and I did type it because there was so much that I was saying, and I'm just gonna adhere this down over the top of it. And I don't know why I left that space there. I was thinking about pulling the glassine bag out, and then I changed my mind, decided to glue it down, and of course forgot about that and was gluing around it. So I wasn't thinking at the moment, but it still works. And so see, I can still pull it out. And don't it look a little better hanging over that little teeny tiny bit that it's hanging over than it did sitting in the middle with those wide gaps between the banners? I'm just adding my photo on there. And I did cut the photo down. My aunt took this photo. And I cut my poor cousin out of it. However, I did scrap it with him on another layout at one time or another, but I just wanted Fluffy on here, so he got, just kind of cropped out. Well, not cropped. Well, I used scissors or, well, my trimmer and cut him out. I didn't make it any closer up at all. There's a border on the sketch there, and it is at the bottom. However, I'm going to add this to the top. My original plan was to add it at the bottom, but then I got to looking at the top and I thought, well, I would like some layers there and a variety of things, so I went ahead and added it to the top. But I added it. It is on there. And there's a tag, which, my glassine bag could work as that. But I decided to add a tab. And so I'm just rounding the corners with a 1/8 inch corner rounder. And I go to put it in, I think, oh, that's way too much white to be showing. So I'm cutting some off and tucking it in. And I had to hurry, because my glue was still wet. And I had to make sure it got behind there before the glue dried. I'm just going to put Fluffy right there on my photo. And I forgot to show the dies. Like I said, I started it a week ago. And as soon as I got done with this, I seen the dies laying next to me. But they are a Tim Holtz set of dies. And it's one of those ones that have several letters of each letter. And I thought I would put notes up there. Well, noted. I had a little sticker that has been almost on, I don't know how many layouts. And I seen I didn't move it aside with the rest of the stuff. So I stuck it on this drawer right next to me. It disappeared. When I got ready to put it on there, it was gone after being here for, 3-4 layouts. So I decided to try out these rub-ons from American Crafts, and they're old. I've had them a long time. And they worked perfectly. I didn't have a bit of problem. Well, the only problem I had was me, where I didn't quite get the exact places on the end, but I went back and picked them back up. So they're on there now. It might be a little messy because I wasn't straight when I did that, but it wasn't anything to do with the rub-ons. I made sure this was a lighter green for my cattails because I wanted to look more summery. And I am adding these items. I added, it's a chipboard ball, which I don't think I showed the chipboard stickers. But I did take layers off of it, and then I turned around and added, I did a punch a couple of times, so the punch, it would be higher in the middle, and I could kind of curve my ball just a tiny bit. And I did ink the eggs at a time. You would have thought I'd inked everything ahead of time, so I wouldn't have to do it on video. But I inked them where there was like a highlight in the middle where it was a little bit lighter. And I'm adding them on there. And I'm trying to make sure I get plenty of glue on this. Because it being a smash book, it's not behind a protective cover. And so I wanted to make sure it stays down. But I added a couple of the branches from the Tim Holtz die too, and then I'm going to forget an item. I will end up putting it on in a minute, but I will forget it at first. But I'm just making sure everything is glued down good here. So, let's see, where am I at now? I'm trying to remember. Oh, I thought about going ahead and adding that tag, and I changed my mind. And there, I put the brads aside because I thought I am not going to use them. Those are real brads and not sticky ones. And I am putting glue on my enamel dots as I put them on there, just because, they do not stick good. They're Gina Marie, and they don't stick normally, but, I do it later. But I thought I'd go ahead and add the glue as I went. I thought about putting that champion player right there, and then I remembered the sticker on the brad sheet and decided to add it. And I am pulling some of the cardboard off of the back of it. And it just says, I think, base ball. I think that's all it says. I don't have it in, I don't have my smash book in here with me. There's where I remembered. I thought, oh, I forgot all about my tonette. And I'm going to have to cut it off a little bit and act like it's part of it's hanging down behind the, grass. And I'm just double checking everything, making sure it's all still glued down really good. Uh, oh, I'm going to add this one up there at the top. And it says, uh, greatest fan, I think, is what it says on it. And I think that's it. I think I don't add anything else. We will see if I do or not. But I am going to go ahead and read the journaling that I have in case you want to hang around for it. But it says, when I was growing up until I turned 14, we lived mostly in Illinois. Most of that time was in Valley View, in a cute little house that had a huge yard and a white picket fence. Along the front, running alongside the main road, were flowers. Beautiful flowers of all kinds along the fence except where the front gate was, which was rarely used for anything else other than to catch the school bus across the road at the sheltered bus stop or a trip to Angelo's, a little mom and pop store. Also, in the yard, there were many fruit trees. 4 kinds of apples, including my least favorite, a crab apple tree, but it was great for climbing and see how far up you could get. Of course, if my mom caught you, you were in big trouble. Also, there was a pear tree and 4 cherry trees, too. In the spring, so many blossoms. I loved the spring. I think I was about 9 when I asked for a puppy for Christmas. I really did not expect to get one since we'd never had one, but really wanted one anyway. On Christmas morning, instead of a puppy, I got a note saying he was not old enough, but as soon as he was, he would be there. It was snowing the day a couple that my dad worked with delivered him. They were covered with snow, and so was the puppy. The woman asked my dad which kid was to get him, and he pointed at me. I was sitting in the floor, and she handed him to me. Such a cute, chubby little ball of fur. So I named him Fluffy. Remember, I was only 9. I was so happy. He may have started out to be mine, but soon he became the family dog, and everyone loved him. The first spring, he was still a puppy and loved to investigate and check everything out. But by the next spring, he was grown and oh so smart. Although we had neighbors, there was wooded areas in between us, and except for the 3 houses on our dead-end street. So lots of kids that seemed to come out of the woodwork, as my dad would say, and they would come over often, and we played baseball often, since we had the biggest yard. We had a bat, a ball, but none of us had mitts. We caught the ball with our bare hands, and boy, did they burn. Fluffy learned how to play quickly, and he was always on whatever outfield team was up at the time. He would on occasion catch a ball before it hit the ground, but mostly it was rolling across the ground. The outfield team would yell and point where he needed to take it, and the race was on. Soon he did not need any coaching. He knew where to take the ball. He was such a good ball player. Also, that spring, my mom hid Easter eggs in the yard for us to find. She did this several times. It was never just one hunt. We would make a day of it. Fluffy learned from that game that we had so much fun playing just by watching. The next time the milkman came and Mom went to get the dairy products off the porch, there were no eggs, just empty cartons. Have you figured out what was going on? LOL, maybe not. We went to school, and after school, when we got out to play, we found the eggs all around the yard. Whereas my mom thought that Fluffy had ate them, and both her and Dad were threatening to get rid of him, he had hidden them instead. After that day, my mom really had to get up early on the days that the milkman would run, way before daylight, to bring the eggs in before Fluffy could get them. At that time, we knew Fluffy was smart, but it was not until we were grown and reminisced about all the things he had done that we realized just how smart he was. We all have had pretty smart dogs since then, but none of them compared to him. This is just two of my favorite things that he did. But I am sure that the eggs was my mom's least favorite. My least favorite was when he tried to learn how to play my tonette. He tried at the correct end, tooth marks all over it, but never quite achieved the sounds that I made. I'm sure he is quite sad about how quiet my tonette was for him. Even being my least favorite memory, it still brings a smile to my face, and I remember how much I loved Fluffy. So that's it. That's my journaling. And I had a lot of fun creating this Smash book layout. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this sketch is by Laura Whitaker. And I always love her sketches. But that's it. That's my layout. And I want to thank you all for joining me while I created it. And if you stuck around for the journaling and to the end, thank you even more. But have a happy, scrappy week. Be sure to check out the playlist down there below. Bye.